Okay. Oh, sorry, y'all. Yes, I can do that one first and then pause before the next item, Melinda.
Okay.
So a quick update on water rate curtailments, just because I know we have more public here, I think, online than we typically have at our regular board meetings. So I apologize for the repetitive nature since our morning meeting, although I do have one update based on the most recent curtailment notice that came out late yesterday compared to this morning. So you'll get even more current information this afternoon. So the State Water Resources Control Board has imposed water rate curtailments due to the current drought conditions, really across watersheds in the Bay Delta area. So this is just a quick summary. In the Sacramento River watershed, so upstream outside of the legal delta, water right holders with a priority date of 1917 or later are curtailed. In addition to that bigger picture kind of valley-wide curtailment, there are further curtailments that go deeper into pre-1914 claims, or so statements of water diversion and use on some individual tributaries like Puda Creek and the Bear River, and some of the kind of upper, more headwater type watersheds. Similarly, on the San Joaquin side, although deeper curtailments than we see on the Sacramento River side, all post-1914 and pre-1914 water rights and claims in the San Joaquin watershed have been curtailed, again, outside of the legal delta. And importantly, there are also further curtailments on the San Joaquin system into riparian claims, even on a couple tributaries further upstream. Within the delta, so including areas with the North Delta Water Agency, so the whole legal delta, post-1914 water rights have been curtailed, similar to the Sacramento River watershed. So those with a priority date of 1917 or later are curtailed water rights, so diversions are unable to occur under those water rights. The key point here, and the big benefit for those of you with lands within North Delta Water Agency, is the benefit of your contract with DWR, and that allows you to continue to divert and use water pursuant to that contract, regardless of if your underlying water rights are curtailed. We'll pause there, Melinda, and see if there are any questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I think this moves into the next item of the agenda. And I just wanted to give a quick summary of that North Delta 1981 contract with DWR for those who haven't heard it enough times. But it assures this dependable supply of suitable quality. So it's year-round protections from ocean salinity intrusion. We have monitoring stations at 7 different locations within the agency's boundaries that we're watching for compliance with this water quality criteria. And again, this big benefit that we're seeing right now is that the contract supplements water rights during periods of curtailment. The contract does include a drought emergency provision, Article 4BI, and that's really the focus of this meeting today, and what I think the bulk of the presentations by DWR are going to be focused on. So just as a refresher, and we looked at this table at our last drought informational meeting earlier this year, but there are 3 criteria, all of which must occur for these drought emergency provisions to be triggered. So the first is the 4 River Basin Index is less than an average of 9 million acre feet in 2 consecutive years. On the right-hand side here under status, you can see that last year was 6.4 million acre feet. This year was 10.6 million acre feet. And so that gives us an average of 8.5, which triggers this first criteria. The next criteria on the table here is related to state water project ag allocations and annual entitlements being reduced. On the right-hand side, you can see that as of March 18th, the current state water project allocations were 5%, and this triggered this criteria for the year. The last piece is one we've spent a lot of time on over the last couple of meetings, but it's that a state water resources control board emergency regulation is in effect, which maintains water quality different than that under the North Delta contract. So this occurred at the beginning of June. There was a state water resources control board order on a temporary urgency change petition, which was actually approved back in April, but the effect of this standard relative to North Delta didn't happen until the beginning of June. And so what this order did was moved the Edmonton water quality standard of 2.78 microsiemens per centimeter this year to 3 Mile Slough. And again, this was effective for June 3rd through the end of the month, June 30th. North Delta's contract water quality criteria during that same time was 1.42. So that was less than the emergency order approved the standard to be. And so this is what triggered this third criteria for the drought emergency provisions.
And Anne, under the contract, the drought emergency provision ends once any one of these criteria is no longer in existence, which is why as of June 30th, it ended, because this third one is no longer in existence. So
that's right. So what does this mean? So the contract identifies that when a drought emergency exists and an overland supply is not available to individual water right holders to provide similar water quality and supply, that a special contract claims procedure will be established by the state. And that's really to help facilitate compensation payments. So for any loss of net income for acreage which was planted to a more salt tolerant crop or not planted at all, or to any crops that were planted but are seeing reduced yields. And so like we summarized on the last slide, all of the criteria for the drought emergency were met on June 3rd. That existed through June 30th of 2022. And DWR has developed a special claims procedure for 2022. I think we'll pause for questions, and then next will be DWR's presentation on the special claims procedure.
Are there questions out there for Anne? Hearing none, we will move on to agenda item number 4 and turn it over to Anna Falk and Trip Mizell.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Anna Falk with Department of Water Resources. And my colleague Trip is here, and also my staff, Noel Ober, he's also here. So we will go through our draft procedure that we shared with Melinda last Friday. And I don't know whether you have a chance to share with everyone. If not, can I share my screen?
Yes, Anna, you should be able to.
yeah, you should be able to share. And for
Okay.
I have shared it with our board members, but for the public, we will be posting after the meeting is done today.
Gotcha. Can you see my screen, everyone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm going to use our the draft procedure to walk through, kind of explain it, and instead of using a presentation.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are two PDF files we're going to share. One is the procedure itself, and then the other one is the attachment to go with the claims procedure for 2022 drought emergency. And this package is very similar to 2015 version. We did some updates is to enhance the clarity, mainly for that purpose. And so on the screen, you can see I have 4 pages on this file, and there are a total of 12 paragraphs. And I'm going to kind of quickly go through each of the paragraph, if that's okay.
Okay.
Okay. So the first one is the purpose. And I think Anne already go through the details. the background of that. So I don't want to spend more time on that. And she also went through the initiation of drought emergency. So with that, that started on June 3rd. And then paragraph 3 is about the termination of drought emergency. So for now, as in the Ann's presentation is June 30th. So for paragraph 4, it's about if we want to extend the drought emergency time period, we can do so as long as DWR and North Delta Water Agency, we mutually agree to, and then we need to put that in writing. Paragraph 5 is claims eligible for reimbursement under this procedure. So basically it's talk about what is eligible. So for the loss of incomes that caused by this drought, this 2022 drought emergency during the period of June 3rd through June 30th. And also the claimants submit their claim by April 1st, 2023, April 1st, 2023, then is eligible for this procedure. And then paragraph 6 is persons or entities eligible to act as claimants. So as long as you are the legal users of water or land within North Delta Water Agency's boundary, you're eligible.
Definitely need to do it automatically.
Okay. For number 7, paragraph 7.
Wait,
Is,
can you just hold on one second? Sorry, everybody, we didn't do an automatic deletes. I'm sorry. What's it called?
Mute.
Mute. Could everyone just pause for a moment and make sure that you are on mute because we are hearing people talk in the background. So please mute right
I
now.
think I got
Thank you.
everybody.
Go ahead, Anna.
Sure. Okay. So I'm at number 7, calculating the basis of an eligible claim. So based on the provision in the 1981 contract, DWR will compensate for loss of net income due to planted with a more salt tolerant crop, or not planted any crops, or reduced yield due to this drought emergency. And DWR is going to use the baseline of your income, which is the average of your net income for the 3 out of the most recent 5 years. That without drought emergency, we'll use that as a baseline of your normal income. So that will help our calculation. And then any recovery under crop insurance or other source of income recovery is considered as part of your net income. So all this is the same as 2015.
And so essentially, if they're being paid by their insurance for crop losses, they cannot also be paid through this program, is what you're saying?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct. Yep.
Well, they could be paid to the extent that the crop insurance didn't cover your total loss.
That's a good point, Steve.
That's
Yeah, but
correct.
that's right. For anything that was paid by them, they cannot, but you're right. Anything that wasn't covered by that crop insurance could be eligible. And we had an issue that I want to raise right now that just came up today that we thought of to bring up, and you may not have an answer, DWR may not have an answer today. And so you may need to get back to us and we can share the information with the public. Because those of you that have been working on this claims procedure may not be aware that this year, DWR through the Delta Conservancy implemented a pilot program, a drought response program within the entire Delta, but there were participants in the North Delta who were compensated for making some crop decisions to planning to different less water use type of crops or not planting, and there's different things they could have been paid for. So I don't know if you're going to treat it the same way as you would those that receive crop insurance. But we do want to make sure that at some point we can get an answer to that question, so that I don't want people to waste their time filling out all the paperwork necessary in this claims process if they're not going to be eligible because they received funding through that pilot drought response program.
It makes sense, Melinda, to me that DWR would treat that the same as the insurance payments.
Well, that's what occurred to us, which is why I wanted to raise it, because I thought they may not be aware that that existed this year, and it is a changed circumstance that just occurred to us today, and which why I said DWR, you may not, be able to answer today, but it's something we'll need to get the answer for.
Yeah. Hey, Melinda, this is Tremizel. And Steve brought this up when we discussed the possibility of a drought claims process this year.
Good.
And if you scroll back up to paragraph 7, we'll just point out the language so that last sentence, or any other source of income recovery would include that
Perfect.
conservation program.
Yeah, because it made sense that that would be similar to the, being paid by your insurance. So I just want to make sure, again, I don't want to waste any of our landowners' time for filling out paperwork that they would be denied. So thanks.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you for the questions. Yeah. Okay, so I'll continue. Number 8 is about initiation of the claim. And so for all claimant, if please fill in all the information in the attachment 1 that Noel going to go through. And as now we are kind of moving to the online form. So this is something kind of new format, but the type of the questions is they are also similar to 2015. And using the online form, actually it's more efficient. It can help expedite the review. So we are moving to that electronic format. And then, so after you finish the attachment 1, and also please make sure you complete another signature page, which we call that attachment 2, so that North Delta Water Agency can confirm your farm is within the North Delta, is within the agency's boundary. Okay, so that's number 8. And then number 9, it's review of the claim. So after we receive your submittal, within 30 days, we will review we will review the completeness, completeness of your claim. And then if we need to request additional information, please provide that to us in a timely manner. So that we can reduce the amount of back and forth during the kind of like a loop. So we'll let you know within 30 days whether your package is complete, and then after that, within 60 days, DWR will try to complete evaluating your claim and issue you a letter, as well as provide you with additional forms to complete. The forms like a release of liability. So we need that. We need you to complete those forms within 30 days in order for us to proceed to the next step, which is issue the check. But before we go to that, the paragraph 10 is about if we have any disputes, this paragraph lay out the process to resolve that. And of course, we don't want to go to that route, but we have this procedure listed here if needed. So I'm not going to go to at length at that. I'll now reach to paragraph 11 about the time frame for payment. So after we receive all the completed form from you, then we will work as fast as possible to issue a check, the payment, no later than 60 days. So which is the end of the process. And then during this whole procedure, if you have any questions, feel free to connect with us. We would like to hear from you as soon as possible so that we can speed up everything. And we have email here, and if needed, you can connect with me. I'll help you with that. So that's the overall procedure. Any questions before I move to the attachment?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Ms. Falk, for this presentation. My name is Austin Cho. I'm a Downey Brand and provide counsel service to North Delta Water Agency. I have two questions. One relating to the time frame provision. Is there any, after the 60 days have elapsed, is there any interest rate or other, I guess, assurance about DWR's prompt payment within that time frame that would apply?
You mean if DWR pay later than 60 days? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Well, upon a trip, I don't think that's ever happened, right?
It hasn't, and honestly, Austin, I would expect it not to be the case. There is no provision in this claims process for the payment of any interest rate or percentage penalty based on exceeding these timeframes, but they were crafted with a good knowledge of what Department of Finance's processing times are, and in coordination with folks who engaged with us back in 2015 in North Delta Water Agency to understand what the timeframes necessary for folks to close their books on the season and gather the information necessary to support a claim. So these timeframes were, I think, drafted with some flex in them, so we didn't cut things off at the earliest possible moment. We gave time for wiggle room, and in that case, we would not expect to exceed them.
Great, I appreciate that. Thank you. My second question was just whether a hard copy version of claims can still be submitted. I see that at the number 12 says that claims can be submitted to that PO box, but looking at the form itself, it kind of suggests that it needs to be submitted electronically. So I just want to confirm that hard copy submissions are acceptable.
Yes, it's acceptable. But I think if you can do electronic, we strongly recommend you to go that route.
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for confirming.
With that, any questions?
I have a question. This may be premature, but based on some of the information above, it sounds like this is only a dollar, a revenue loss, not a production loss. And the reason I ask is because this year, in my case, I have grain corn and the prices are much higher than in the past. So even a modest production loss would probably not trigger a dollar loss. So I just want to make sure I understood that correctly.
Yeah.
Lou, that's correct. It's all based upon bucks.
Okay, thank you.
Well, with that, I'll turn to my staff, Noel. So I'll let him share his screen.
You know, if I may interrupt again, Lou, let's say you had fruit and the fruit didn't size. So it was a quality problem, and the quality problem resulted in a diminished price. That would show up in your dollar figures. You know, it's basically an imperial average of the last 5 years.
Got it. Yeah.
That you get to pick through those 3 years.
Yeah.
And Steve, the next part of the presentation is the application and kind of all of those topics. So we might want to let DWR cover this.
Good enough.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Noel Oberth with the Department of Water Resources. Is my screen sharing?
No.
Not yet.
She needs to stop sharing first there. Hold on one sec. I'm gonna. Okay. It says we're seeing your screen, but we're just seeing us on your screen. So I don't know if you have two screens.
That's what you're supposed to be seeing then.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
All right.
We see it now.
Okay. Sorry about that. So here is the attachment that we've shared with North Delta. And as I understand it, it will be shared after this meeting. It's got all of the same questions in it that I'm about to go through in just an informational capacity, so you can know what to expect when you go to fill out the form. And the form is just this link here at the top. It'll take you to this website. If you have any questions, you can just click these links here. It'll send it to us. One important thing to note is we do require a couple of documents to also be submitted, such as a deed or a right to the property. This form cannot accept files, so you do have to send those to us through email. I would recommend doing it before filling out the form, but you can also do it very shortly thereafter. And the reason for that is we want to make sure that we don't respond to your form saying this is incomplete if you just haven't sent us those documents yet. And so that's why I would recommend sending the documents before filling this out, or almost simultaneously would probably be the best. But you won't get an automatic rejection or anything if you do one or the other first, just as some background information. So what we're asking for is your name, or if it's a joint venture between multiple people, everybody's name involved. And then that percent ownership. If there's only one claimant on it, so it's not a partnership of any sort, you can just enter 100%. It's right there in the instructions. And then we're going to ask for the property itself, and that's going to be the assessor's parcel number or the address, or some other form of description. And we're also, again, going to be asking for the deed or whatever legal document states that the person that was entered in question 1 has right to this property. And then question number 4 is the mailing address. So please make sure that you enter the mailing address, and I will actually change that before this goes out.
Can I ask a quick question on this? So I think this came up in 2015, but there's substantial amount of land in the Delta that is farmed. So the crop itself is owned, if you will, by a leased farmer that doesn't own that property. So are you saying that those that are actually experiencing the crop loss, the lessee can't get paid?
Hey, Melinda, this is Tripp again. No, that's not the case. What we're saying is that if you're a leasee making a claim, we need to see a copy of your lease.
Yeah.
What we need to be able to do is document that funds are only flowing to those who can demonstrate that they fall within the protections of the contract for audit purposes.
So in lieu of the
provide us a lease if you're the leasee, provide us the deed if you're the owner, provide us the business entity if you are a partnership. Those are the documents that we're looking for.
That's a great explanation. Thank you.
All right. So the next question, next 2 questions are just more contact information. We'll need your phone number to contact you and your email address. The email address that you enter here will be where we respond to you. So please make sure that you enter that correctly with no typos or anything of that nature. Then we're going to need a description of the circumstances surrounding the claim, damage, or loss of net income. I would recommend being as thorough as possible on all of these questions moving forward. The more information you provide us, the less likely we're going to have to reach out for more information. And if we have to reach out for more information, it's what we would consider an incomplete claim because we can't even process it with the amount of information we've been given. So again, when in doubt, just provide more information. Be as thorough as possible. For 2022 permanent crops, we'll need yield quantities and values as applicable. So if you don't have permanent crops, just say so. That type of information. And then for annual crops, we have a whole list of items that we need for this in terms of whether they were planted or fallowed, the sow dates, the harvest dates, any receipts or invoices you received for them, yield quantities and values. And so quantity would just be the production, and then values would be the dollar amount for them. And then for the timing and quantity of the irrigation and pre-irrigation, we just need to know when and how much water was used. Any soil salinity data that you have, pre and post planting, root zone concentrations. Just again, this is going to be one of those things where the more data you have, the easier it is for us to process. And then if you have any specific questions regarding what we're looking for any of these, please don't hesitate to reach out to us and we'll get back to you with your specific question. Crop history of the property for the past 5 years. This is part of that calculation in which we need to know we're going to take the average of any 3 of the 5 years. So that's why we need to know for the past 5 years what types of crops were planted, any sales data, that sort of information for that. And then we're going to need to know the applied water quality. So historical electrical conductivity, as you're aware of it, chlorides, boron, sodium concentrations, any type of flexibility that you had regarding irrigation, such as that pre-irrigation, if the crop could have been irrigated beforehand, before June 3rd, was that done? If not, why not? Those sorts of things. And if they're not applicable, just please let us know, and please let us know why it's not applicable. Again, the more data provided, the less likely we're going to have to ask questions.
I'd like to note, Noel, that
yes.
Most people do not have historic EC numbers. If there's never been a problem, you don't have occasion to go check their electrical conductivity. So for instance, on the McCollum River in the 15 claims, I don't believe I was asked that question, or if I did, I could not provide the answer if I was asked that question.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure any of our landowners are going to be able to provide that. And that is a changed thing, I think, from last time.
I believe that this is a different requirement, personally, on operating off of memory from 7 years ago or 8.
I guess I wouldn't know how this question was handled in 2015, but I'm fairly certain that this was at least on the document. I'm pretty sure this was not a changed question as far as that goes.
Well, we need to figure this out because, if it's not something that, that's not data available, then we're going to have a problem with everybody being incomplete if they can't provide that data. So this is definitely something we'll need to figure out.
Melinda, this is Tripp again, and hopefully this is helpful to folks understanding what we're trying to do here. If your basis of claim doesn't rely upon the water quality at a specific time, then this information wouldn't necessarily be identified as necessary to figure out what the appropriate dollar amount is, right? So it really depends. These questions are trying to address each of the 3 different mechanisms by which the contract allows landowners to be compensated. Some questions may apply to all 3. Some may apply to only 1 or 2. So if a question doesn't apply to the specific way in which you are trying to make a claim under the contract, simply state that in the box. Again, this isn't intended to be a got you situation where, information is left out of one box and we summarily reject it and there's no recourse. These are helping to elicit as much information as possible from the claimant so that we can have a dialogue and figure out how to evaluate your claim. And if you don't have it, simply state that. If we feel that it's absolutely necessary based on the type of claim you're filing, we will follow up with people and have that conversation.
That's very helpful. Thanks.
Trip or Noel, this is Austin Cho again. Would you mind, are you able to describe a scenario in which the level of EC in the soil would affect the calculation that is set to be done for a landowner's claim, which, the 1981 contract specifies that that's to be calculated based just on the average of the net income loss compared to the 3 of the 5 previous years. How would the various levels of salinity in the water or the soil change that calculation?
Austin, this is Anna. Are you asking whether we evaluate something like that before?
If you have an example that you've evaluated before, that would be helpful. I'm just trying to get a sense, sort of in line with Melinda's comments, of how this information will be used in DWR's determination of compensation under this claims procedure.
So yeah, we probably need to go back to the past, but yeah, I don't really have an example on the top of my head now. So we'll follow up with you later. Is that okay?
Yeah, that'd be fine. Maybe some additional discussion on this item would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to just go ahead and move on to the next item then. The method of calculating yield reduction. So basically, we're just looking for how it was determined, what your yield is. We'll need to know how that was established. And then this next one is the estimate of losses of net income due to state water project operation. So this is basically asking what you're asking for under this claim in terms of dollar amount, and then how you calculated that. So this is really your chance to tell us what you think this is valued at. So again, the more information here, the better. And then we can follow up with that. And then this last one is, or the second to last one is basically just a checklist. So these are the documents that I mentioned at the start of this that will have to be submitted to us via email. So that's the deeds or agreements supporting legal right to the property. And again, that could be the deed or the lease or whatever other legal document is relevant to establish that you have the right to make the claim. And then the verification of crop sales. So that's going to be receipts or other similar documents. And then if you have any crop insurance, we'll need to see what that was, what it covered, what it didn't cover, that sort of information. And again, if it's not applicable, just let us know that it wasn't applicable. The signature page, which I'll go over shortly, and that is just as part of the process, we need the North Delta Water Agency to verify that this property is within North Delta's boundaries. And then this last one is just you type your name to verify that all of this information that you've provided to the best of your knowledge is true. And then once you hit submit, it'll be submitted to us and we'll be able to see your email so we can contact you with any questions that we have. And then in 30 days, we will let you know either we have questions or we don't have questions and we're moving on to the next phase, which is evaluating the claim itself. That 30 days is just for the completeness of this form. And then the next 60 days will be for the actual evaluation. And again, those are the maximum expectations. So we may get back to you within 2 weeks instead of 30 days. Those are just the limits in terms of when we would expect to get back to you. So you can have an estimate of a worst case scenario, I guess, in terms of timeline. So are there any questions about this form?
This is Melinda. I'm not sure if there's another form coming or not, but I'll just go ahead and ask my question, which is, I recall in 2015 that once you received this form where it gives you all of this, type of information, it seems, if I'm recalling correctly, DWR had like a third-party committee of folks that were experts to kind of review the information. Is that being done again, or is just DWR reviewing it?
The third-party review, are you referring to the review of the claim itself in terms of whether or not it's going to be approved or denied?
Yeah, like all this background information that they gave and, how the landowners, what they were proposing, and it seemed like you had some kind of committee or something that reviewed the application.
Okay. So, yes. That was a DWR group. It was not the group that you submitted the data to, and that is going to be the case again, where we have another unit within the department that will be reviewing all of this information. Did that answer the question?
If I understand you correctly, it's going to be an internal DWR staff, not third parties then?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Seemed to me that before there were people from the UC Ag Extension involved
Yeah.
to determine what was a more salt tolerant crop, et cetera, et cetera. And evidently there are people within DWR that can consult with somebody on that, but I wouldn't think anybody within DWR would be accredited to make such assertions.
That's what I recall.
Trip, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, Stephen, Melinda, you touch on a good point, which is that if DWR doesn't have in-house expertise, we will certainly seek that expertise elsewhere. We don't intend to ask our staff to go beyond their training in evaluating these claims. So I would expect that, to your point, if we are unable to find the expertise within DWR's ranks, then we would be looking for a contract to, say, for instance, UC Davis Ag Extension.
Is there more from DWR for your presentation, or is that the end?
Yes, I do have one more form to
Okay.
share. And so this is the dispute resolution form that's also in the attachments, similar to the first form where there's a link at the top that'll bring you to this form. This is only if there's a dispute. So in that case, that means the claim was denied and you wish to pursue a dispute on that. It's very similar information in terms of your name, the property, etc. One difference is there's this question asking if you are the claimant or if you're a representative of the claimant. Then it'll just populate the next question, which is basically either your signature or your signature on behalf of the claimant if you're a representative. And that will start the process for the dispute. The dispute process itself is delineated in that attachment, in the process document, excuse me. And it goes through timelines, what to expect, what information is part of the dispute and what information is not part of the dispute. So I do recommend going through that, and we can certainly go through that with you. I just think at this time, we are more focused on the claim itself, just because the dispute may never happen, that type of situation.
Yeah, if I'm recalling correctly, and Trip can correct me, but I don't believe we had any dispute resolution issues that arose in 2015 that I can recall. So that's the good news for our folks. Is I think DWR really did its best, and I think like Trip described earlier, none of these questions and things being asked for to try to disqualify you. You just try to answer it in the best way possible for them to be able to review it. So, they seemed very reasonable last time and expect the same this time. But that said, if there is dispute resolution on your end, DWR, this is where making sure if you deny claims, that you've kind of sought out some of that third-party expertise, to really justify, a denial in that case.
I'd like to note that last time I was myself and my landowners were 4 of the 8 claims, and the people with whom I worked were very amiable, very helpful. But I do want to note that I could have had a claims dispute, because I thought one of the ranch's net income, we'll put it this way, the payment was somewhat less than what it should have been. But I did not want to hold up all of the claims, and looking at the time value of money and the effort and costs that it would take to dispute the disparity or the difference in what I was paid and what I thought I should have got paid.
Okay.
I chose not to carry it out, not to chase it. So, I mean, it was a relatively insignificant amount of money when you look at the whole claim. But to me, it was a matter of principle, but it was also a matter of business. That do I really want to hold up the claim for 6 figures dealing with a 4-figure differential?
I think you bring up a good point, though, Steve, that the dispute resolution could be, from a landowner perspective, that it's not that they got denied, it's just that the payment amount was less than what they thought it should be. And it could be used that way. And that's a good point. It's not just for a denial. It may be for a payment that the landowner considers less than what it should be.
Yes.
Okay, that's a really good point. Thanks.
And again, just to that point, on the actual claim, question number 15, just make sure you're very thorough in essentially what you're expecting to be paid, what you think you should be paid. That is what will go into that box there.
And like you said, just make sure you try to back it up with as much documentation and information as possible.
Believe me, that anybody out there that's thinking about doing it, you need really good records going back 5 years. And, you know, and obviously good records of what you are doing this year. But the warehouse receipts, checks, yield reports, crop insurance data, et cetera, will be required. So you make sure that you have a good record retention stream to be able to successfully negotiate or navigate the process.
And of course, if you have any questions at any point in time, or if you submit this form and then think, oh, I forgot something, I should submit this additional document, please feel free to just contact us here at this email. We are here to assist you in any way we possibly can. And that is the signature page. So for for the signature page, currently, once it's sent out, you can either print it and sign it physically with a pen with ink, and then have North Delta sign it and then email that to us. Or we are also setting up a process, and when that's complete, you'll just be able to click a link, fill in your name and email, and then it'll show the document on screen, and you essentially just click it and it'll sign it for you. And what happens is internally is we see the email address of the person who signed it, the timestamp, and that sort of information. It's a service called DocuSign. And once you complete that, it'll be sent to North Delta, and then North Delta will also sign it. And then once they have completed that process, it'll send it to us automatically. That is in the works. And I do think we'll probably need to talk to Melinda and Cindy separately just to determine where that form should be going when it goes to North Delta, just to make sure that it's being seen appropriately. But the intent with that is to, again, expedite the process. DocuSign is a very user-friendly service. So we're very excited about getting that up and running this year.
Yeah, thank you for that, Noel, because that was a pain last time for we claimants. And if there were any number of them, it would be a pain for our staff to meet them to physically sign things. So that DocuSign thing, which I've used before, and if I could use it, folks, anybody could use it. Notoriously technologically challenged. But at any rate, DocuSign would facilitate a much quicker turnaround. And thank you for including it.
And could I just request from the agency, I am also technologically challenged. Cindy is in charge of checking to see whether they're within our boundaries. So can you make sure that in your DWR process that these documents are being sent to her email and not mine?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, because it'll probably get shuffled.
Yeah, and she's assistant manager. She has the authority to sign and can make sure that that happens and check to make sure they're within the boundaries.
Okay, that sounds perfect. Thank you. And with that, that is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Are there any questions of Anna, Noel, or Trip from the public? Here's your chance, folks. Evidently, the presentation was clear and concise and complete.
Well, I think their documents are pretty descriptive, themselves. And now that we have clarification that, the lessees and the partnerships and it's, can all apply. Again, I think Trip, jumping in and explaining, look, it's about making sure you're answering the question. There's no wrong or right answers. It's just trying to get them enough information. So I think that's helpful as well.
No, it's just draft right now, correct?
Yeah, so that's a good point. So you guys had indicated this is just draft. So is it going to be final now or what's the deal with that?
Yes, we are planning to finalize it after this meeting.
Okay. Well, maybe
Well,
that's what we'll,
Go ahead.
I was going to say, maybe if you turn around a final document, then maybe that's the one we'll post on our website.
Sure, no problem.
And just make sure any hyperlinks that are necessary for them to do the online filing are embedded within that.
Well, on
Yeah.
behalf of go ahead.
All of the links are up with the exception of the signature document, which we just discussed. So I will go ahead and contact Cindy about that just to make sure I have the correct email and everything. I do have Cindy's email, but I just want to verify.
Yeah.
Always good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So on behalf of the agency and our ratepayers that own ground within the North Delta Water Agency boundaries, I appreciate your presentation, your time, and thank you very much. And thank you, public, for attending to figure out what's going on.
Are you officially adjourning us?
Oh, yeah, I guess I have to do that. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My
Thank you. Take care.